Hey friends, Anthony from Figma here. Thank you all so much for joining the live stream today. It was awesome to see literal thousands of you in there with us. I wanted to touch a bit more on sections in Figma and some of the ways that you can use those capabilities today. So let's get into it. For starters, I have a prototype here where you can see that I've started to wire up, where I have the product browsing screen of a plant app and the product detail page, an empty shopping cart, and a shopping cart with that item in it. Our cart buttons link to our empty shopping cart, and our shop buttons go back to our shop. And this add button here on our product details is going to add that and link to the item with the shopping cart in it, right? With the item in the shopping cart. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like, right? So here I have my prototype. If I click to our cart, we get the empty cart. If I click back to the shop, we get the shop page. I can click on the plant and get the detail view, and then I can add the item to the cart. If I click add, we now have a different cart frame with that item added to it. And this is great. However, you're going to notice one thing here, right? If we go back to our shop and then we want to go back to our cart, it's going to take us back to that empty cart page. Figma wasn't remembering that we had already been through one of the pages and added the item to our cart, so it didn't remember that part of our cart flow. It's just bringing us back to the beginning here as well. With sections, you can actually make it so that Figma can remember what part of that flow or what part of that set of frames that the prototype was in when you go back to that tab. So let's do that together right now. I'm going to go back to our design that we have over here. I'm going to switch into design mode. You can use Shift-E to quickly switch between design and prototyping. It's a great little shortcut. And I'm going to then press Shift-S to make a section. So I'm going to drag out a section around our top two frames. I'm going to call this Browse because we're browsing for our products. And then I'm going to hit Shift-S again and put one around our frames down here. And we're going to call this Cart for our shopping cart. So these are our main sections of those smaller frame flows that we have inside as well. One thing to note, you actually don't have to set up separate prototyping flows for this to work as expected. You will be able to do this just by wrapping the frames in these sections. And I'm going to make them a little bit better color. Again, you can use a lot of the design properties on sections here. Contrast on text will adjust automatically too as well, which is really nice. So if I were to have a couple of sections right there, great, looking good. Okay, so let's make this a bit more dynamic where as we're interacting, Figma can remember which part of our section we were in when we switch between those two tabs. And all we have to do is let's take a look at our cart prototyping links. So I'm going to switch into Command E to get into the prototyping mode. Again, you're only going to see the connections for the item you currently have selected. If I deselect that, I'm going to see all of the connections that I have set up. But we're going to go ahead and select our cart like that. And I'm actually just going to move this connection from the empty frame just to the entire section itself. That's all that you have to do for the change there. And we'll do the same thing with this other one. If you were using more advanced techniques like main components, you could probably have it so that these were instances and do some fancier techniques. But for now, we're keeping it simple. I'm going to leave our shop going back to our home frame for all of these. I don't necessarily want to come back to the product that I was on just yet. I could set it up that way too. But for this case, let's have it just go back to the home screen when we switch back to it. Okay, that's it. That's all we have to, it's the only change we really have to make now. So let's go check out our prototype. Prototypes update automatically, so you don't even have to refresh or anything. If I go to my cart, we're going to see that empty cart, which is great, what we would expect to see. And then now if we come back and we add a product and we say add, we get that screen where that item has been added to the cart. And now Figma is remembering which part of that section that we were in. So if we switch back to the shop tab, it's still remembered that we were on the second frame of that cart section. So if we go back to our cart, it's going to have that item still in the cart. This is really, really powerful. To build this with regular prototyping would take a lot of extra connections, a lot of extra frames for assuming every single permutation that you could create. So this is going to save a lot of time when it comes to remembering the state or remembering the history of where you were within different parts of your prototypes. One thing to note, we did use like an item in a cart here. If you had multiple items, you would still need to account for all of those permutations. So this isn't going to magically do the logic for adding more items, but in this particular example, it works because we're able to remember that history. So hopefully this is helpful. I'm excited to see what y'all come up with. If you have more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and happy designing.